Interesting. So I like how you were mentioning that, the creativity side of things is not really something that's seen as actual work. It's not hard.
Mm.
It's people expect you that you just click a button and things work. I mean, I'm also a media creative at Texim. I do
Oh,
all the
great.
artworks and stuff. So like I totally get you when you say that. And it's
Mm.
just something that resonates a lot with me.
Yeah.
But also like looking at the space in the past and now,
Mm.
what has changed aside from the number of players in the game? Are there any
Mm.
institutional shifts and changes that you can speak to?
Um, I think some of the changes have come in unexpected ways, and they've affected the general kind of business environment by force. Because with the acceptance of the internet as a primary avenue to access audiences, for example, um, the business community, corporates, and so on have been forced to start to compare their communication strategies with the global standards that are out there. So that's one of the things that's caused a lot more of a shift, because now, traditionally Zimbabwe was very below the line advertising, which means we relied a lot on radio, print. That was just it. And because print required mostly graphic design, all you needed was a graphic designer. But with the fast moving international design trends, and of course the fact that services are being rendered and products delivered online and so on, uh, local businesses have had to look outward and say, okay, we're no longer just going to conform to the Zimbabwean standard of communication and design. We now need to be able to compete internationally. So that's brought on a change that's been forced on our businesses, right? And our corporate environment. And it's been good. It's been good because now you have, I'll use the example of illustrators, guys who just primarily draw digitally. Their demand has just shot up because all of a sudden, you know, uh, businesses need mascots. Businesses want to communicate with characters that are a little bit more relatable. We've seen the rise of infographics and explainer videos, all sorts of things that were not really popular in the mid 90s to early 2000s are now the norm. And it's shown that if you're a business and you want to survive, you have to be able to embrace those things and learn about them. And hopefully, when you learn about them, you gain an appreciation for how they're made. Um, you guys have featured a few prominent animation studios from here in Zim that have gained in popularity rapidly. And the reason is the same animation services that they offer are comparable and competitive with the stuff you see coming out of South Africa and neighboring markets. So as a result, it's forced a lot of parents to change. It's forced a lot of businesses and marketing departments to change their approach. It's forced them to read up more because now, it's not just about being social media savvy. The media, multimedia is consumed a lot more than text. So you have to know more about motion graphics. You have to know more about um, video. You have to know more about animation. So that's the kind of stuff that is prevalent right now. That's forcing our environment to change, and yeah, I think those are the changes that we can look forward to.
Sounds really good. So yeah, looks like there's a brighter future for young creatives making it in Zimbabwe. So speaking about that on the business side, what has it been like co-founding Comexposed? And can you like describe it for someone who's not familiar? Like I know Ed knows, but like for our viewers and listeners, what is Comexposed and what has it been like co-founding it?
All right. Oh, wow. It's been quite a journey with Comexposed. So I'll start by defining what it is. So Comexposed is an organization that came about when a colleague of mine named Tino Makoni and I, who were working as lecturers at the time, realized that we were teaching a lot of students and training a lot of students in different fields such as animation and illustration, but we were releasing them into a country which really, or a region which really didn't have a digital arts industry. And that was a little bit heartbreaking, because as much as we were beneficiaries of these skills, and as much as we had at that time, we had both demonstrated that you can actually publish comic books that can be serialized. What I mean by that is, I remember back in 2012, I had done a comic book for Gemazo Soccer magazine called Hot Shots, and it ran for months, which is what we mean by a serialized comic book. It's coming out like a newspaper or any other periodical. So my colleague had also done a comic book back in 2009 called The Gift. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then later on, as we became, when we got into the academic field and were teaching and training these guys and they were graduating, they were just, falling flat on their faces, doing the direct opposite of what we had trained them to. So a lot of them ended up not even pursuing this. So we wondered what the difference was between the Zimbabwean environment and the rest of the world was. We realized that the rest of the world actually celebrates and promotes their own popular culture as a means of showing the value of the work that is done. And one of the examples I'm referencing here is Comic-Con, the world famous San Diego Comic-Con, which has become, it's not just a comic book event, but it's a mecca for pop culture. So television shows, when they're, certain television shows, when they're being announced or released, they're first debuted there. When certain video games are released or announced, they're debuted at San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of pop culture in terms of merchandise, the skills, the artists, the actors, the voice actors, etc. In essence, the entire industry just comes together at San Diego. And that's what draws value to that industry when you look at the Western formula. And of course, because of the success of San Diego Comic-Con, which I believe is over 40 years now, it's been kind of replicated across, different countries in the world. We noticed that Zimbabwe obviously didn't have something like that. And it would have been a great starting point for us to promote locally made comic books and ideas and narratives and animations, but also to attract the attention of businesses that actually require these services. Because one of the most common questions is, okay, there are people who do animation, but where do we find? We've heard that, we hear that a few hundred times a month, or the famous statement, which is, I didn't know people in Zimbabwe were doing this. So we wanted to create, number one, a network of artists, and number two, several platforms where they could showcase their work, and then a physical event where we could all come and meet, share ideas, and also accommodate the general public and let them into our world for once, so that they can see firsthand the value of what we do. And also in the case of partners such as Zim and other, prominent businesses that I remember partnering with us in 2015 when we held the inaugural Comexposed, that actually showed up. And when you have a kid who's an aspiring artist or a client services executive from an agency who's uncertain about where to get certain services, showing up at an event like that, and they see other corporates getting involved, they see older people getting involved, they see enthusiasts, and they see several hundred people, it waylays any fears of the risks of actually utilizing this medium for communication. So Comexposed has been running as an annual event since 2015. And we've had numerous other smaller events. And since then, we've managed to attract partners that have helped us to run workshops, certain projects. One of the more recent projects that we've done for the past 2 years is DigiPoem. So we've partnered with the British Council, and we've kind of merged animation and multimedia together with poetry. This year, we could be doing something with BBC Radio. And this is just an example of some of the things we've done in the past 6 years alone. And Comexposed has been a facilitator, it's been an aggregator, it's been an accelerator, it's been a number of eighters. But most of all, it's been a way of formalizing and kind of representing that group of creatives and making them more attractive to the corporate world. and drawing the other professions into our world. I often say we don't really have a comic book industry until you find a comic book company in Zimbabwe with a team of lawyers, or a comic book company in Zimbabwe with a team of accountants, or one that receives services from an auditor. That's an industry where you can really accommodate multiple professions, and you employ and bring value to different people across different fields. So that's what Comexposed is all about. And Comexposed also creates content. We have the Comexposed show, which has also been running for a little over 6 years now, if not more than 6 years, where we also present our own findings and share our opinions in the format of a YouTube show. And we collect information, curate artwork, and talk about stuff that is very grounded on the African continent, and showing off our own interpretation of comic books, and our own regional interpretation of animations and so on. And yeah, generally that's the long version of what Comexposed is and what it's trying to achieve and what it's done so far. So yeah.